Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Around the Lens Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Zach Roberts. Hello, Zach. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. No detours to Michigan this week.
Michigan? Is there something going on in Michigan I should know about?
I don't know. Where was the all the ice stuff happening? Was that in Michigan?
Oh no, Minneapolis. It was
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Yeah, yeah.
I
So
knew it was an
yeah.
M state.
No. It's spread out across all the country now, so it's fine. So
That's right. You can go
it's
anywhere
not
to
fine.
enjoy the fun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
At least it's not as cold, I imagine, right?
It's 30. You were our dear guest, which we'll introduce in a moment, was obviously LA. Not bragging about the heat at all, but we had it's now like 37 degrees here in Norfolk, Virginia, which is wild considering it was like um 70 yesterday.
Yeah,
So yeah, super
yeah.
fun, super fun.
Weather is crazy. You should have to Los Angeles, where our guest for this week's
There you
episode
go.
is dialing in from a filmmaker who I met on Reddit, of all places, Michael Kellman. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the program. We're going to be talking about your film, Say Less, but go ahead and say more and tell us a little about yourself and your career in filmmaking.
Yeah, I'm 28. I am from Los Angeles, born and raised, and I have always loved film and television. It's a big thing growing up, watching movies together as a family. And uh, kind of middle of high school, I started to think maybe that's what I wanted to do professionally if I could. And I went to USC Film for a year and a half of the graduate film program, and I dropped out to make what ended up being this movie. I dropped out. I said, I want to just try to make the my first indie feature, and that ended up being Say Less. And that was I finished that film, exported it in September of 2024.
Wow.
So yeah, been a while, finally coming out now. It came out like a week ago, and the whole festival process kind of adds a year on to that if you wait for a full festival cycle. So it
Right.
it would have come out a year ago essentially if I hadn't kind of done that with it. And yeah, right now I'm about 90% to picture lock on my second feature. So that's what I'm most spending most of my time, aside from trying to get the word out about Say Less. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. That's great. Well, glad to have you here. And that's kind of what I hear sometimes is, where it's like you can go to film school and spend, $150,000 learning the craft at film school and maybe come out there with a short film or something, or you can apply that money towards making a feature film, right? And it sounds like you went that route, right?
Yeah, totally. I think USC Film is a wonderful program. I think it just wasn't for me. I think if you are somebody who is sort of very impatient to try to make a lot of stuff, then of course nobody's stopping you from doing that, and you should go. It behooves you, I think, to just go do that. But for most people, for the majority of aspiring people in the film industry, not just directors, but there are obviously everybody else who fills out the film industry. Who either not be that way or not know what they want to do. Of course, film school is very valuable for them.
Right. No, absolutely. Now, you eschewed film school, right? And you just went to go make your film, but where did you learn the craft, or did you just learn it by doing?
I just learned it by doing. I made my first short when I was maybe 14 or so, and it was a couple years until I made another one, but I made a couple more in high school, and the rest all just come came from yeah making. Before my feature, I made around 15 shorts, Most of those never saw the light of day because by the time I was finished with them, I was unhappy with them. Like
Oh,
by the time I was finished, which I happens a lot with young filmmakers. By the time you're finished with them, sometimes you feel you've moved on, and you're a much better filmmaker than you were when you made them, and don't necessarily feel like it's a great representation of your work. But it was perfectly fine with me. I theirs were all just reps, and eventually I said, okay, I think it's time. I think I should try to make a full length movie.
awesome. There you
So yeah,
go. That's sort of idea is so quaint and counter to our kind of on-demand YouTube culture, right? Where everything we do goes up online. I know I personally have films I made 20 years ago on YouTube right now. I'm not necessarily proud of them. And if you find them, don't judge me because that's when I was still learning. But it's interesting to kind of keep everything kind of close hold like that. Do you think you'll ever like put them up online someday? Or do you think you're always going to kind of stay
definitely
behind the
not.
wall?
Definitely not. I'm very much more of the I envy a little bit the a couple decades ago, 2, 3, 4 decades ago, the industry of I'm much more I would much prefer to put a few pieces of art that I'm very proud of out
Mm,
into the world versus a lot of content that is designed for people to engage with in order to, you know, grow an audience in the way that happens these days, right? I much prefer the when you can just focus on a few pieces of longer form stuff that you can really put your heart and soul into versus say, you know, making a lot of TikToks to as sort of an advertisement in a way. I'm not saying you're sitting there going, watch my movie, but whatever you're doing, you're sort of trying to grow the brand of yourself, right?
right.
In the hopes,
Sure. Of
and it's all ultimately in the hopes that people will watch like your longer form thing.
course. Absolutely. All right, great. Well, let's talk about that thing that you created, the film Say Less. Go ahead and give us kind of like the log line or a quick synopsis of what it's about.
Um, I never had a super polished log line for it. Let me check.
Or just
The
whatever
one
you don't have to say the log line literally. I'm just saying like what is the story in a nutshell?
totally, yeah. The Let me see. The log line on Amazon is a routine night of comedic sibling warfare between Cassie and Max takes a sinister turn when Cassie stumbles upon. Oh, actually, that kind of gives more away than uh,
I was
I
about to say,
realized.
like, yeah, no, that's a little spoilery
Um,
in the log
hmm,
line. Yeah.
hmm. That might be worth talking to sending an email after this, actually.
Uh-oh.
Just to, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that should be up there. But anyway, it's a movie about a brother and sister who have a very fraught relationship with one another, and the A story is their relationship, and the B story is each of their romantic relationships. It's sort of the Edge of 17 meets Risky Business, the Edge of 17 because it's about brother and sister ultimately, and Risky Business because it has the framing of the parents leave the house to the kids at the beginning of the movie and kind of uh, uh, they try to use it for the weekend. Yeah,
Of course, a classic story of
Yeah.
a classic.
children using the house, when the parents explicitly tell them to not use the house,
Yeah.
they decide to immediately use the house for their fun and entertainment. So, talk to me a little about where this story came from. I know obviously the old adage, write what you know, is kind of very popular within, when you're making a film. So, is this kind of like a personal story? Is this come from your personal life, or is it something you just thought of, imagined? Because I know you're the writer as well.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it was totally the story totally came from the constraints. So the budget of Say Less is 100 grand. Um, and I wrote the script for. the best location that I had access to for free. So I took that location and I said, uh, let's write the script around that, knowing that I don't have a ton of money to make it. Um, and so it all came from that. It all came from that constraint of the low budget thing. So one location in one period of time, keeping the cast small, um, all for reasons of money. And when you get down to it, there aren't actually like that many options. There aren't that many kinds of stories or frames of stories. Uh, you're really whittling it down there. I'm not a horror guy, so I was never gonna do horror, right? I was never gonna do somebody's getting, something's happening that spooky in the house, something like that.
You could
And
have.
originally,
I mean, the house definitely lent itself
I
towards
could have, but
that type
I'm
of
not a
thing.
horror guy. I'm not a horror guy. That's not my thing. And I could have done more of a family drama with the parents. And originally the script was a lot more of that. But then I was young, even younger then, and so writing about high school and those feelings of being a teenager and all that stuff was pretty near to me. And so that's what I went with. And then I thought how can I keep an audience engaged? How can I incorporate plot and stakes and an engine into the script that keeps us moving through the night. So everything really came from that, knowing I had to fulfill those requirements, and then what my taste is, just coming out within that framing, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, a big part of the film is the character's Judaism. And I'm curious, is that something that you took from your own personal experience, or was that just because there happened to be that built into the house?
Yeah, my own personal experience. Yeah.
What does it mean to you to kind of integrate your religion into the story? Is there any part of you that sort of like is doing it for representation purposes? Because we don't see a lot of, I would say, Judaism in, uh, I would say, popular culture. Obviously, there's a huge contingent of the entertainment world that is, has, you know, members of that religion as part of it. But I'm just curious if, that was like something like an agenda for you to kind of like detail and talk about Judaism in that sense, or was it just a good story piece?
Yeah, it was really much more the latter. It was sort of something like just writing from my experience and growing up, Jewish myself, and uh, putting it in a way that I sort of experienced it and felt true to me. Like I, my family is not super religious. Like I go to temple on the high holidays, but I don't go to temple every weekend. Um, and it's sort of there and it's a part of life, but it's not um, a a daily focus. And that's kind of the way that it's in the movie. The mezuzah. There's a bit with the mezuzah that's on the door frame,
It's hilarious,
and
by the way.
us, which thank you, I
Yeah.
think is a great bit. Um, and there is, the fact that like the fact that they had a bar and bat mitzvah is a part of a couple stories that get told and are we woven through the plot. But other than that, that's pretty much like the Judaism that's in the movie. It's sort of just there as a matter of fact.
Right. No, because I mean, you could have taken it to the whole nth degree if you really wanted to and weave it, far more into the story. But no, I thought it was an interesting sort of subtle way to acknowledge it. And also, again, you don't see it very often. So it's interesting to see that aligned with the characters. Talk to me a
Yeah,
little
and
about the,
it's also sort of something that, um, to your point, you wouldn't. even notice, you probably wouldn't even ask a question about necessarily. I mean, maybe you would because this is what you do, but somebody would be much less likely if the same amount of Christianity was in the movie.
Yeah, 100%.
You wouldn't bat an eye.
No, if I saw crosses and people wearing, crosses around their chain, and I wouldn't even make a note of it, or maybe I would if it was brought up in the context of the story. But the fact that you focused on it and made it something where the viewer had to know that, you put a menorah in the foreground, you had them, close up of the mezuzah as they touched it and they came in. So it was something you integrated and created and helped, I think, give the characters another layer of depth uh, just by representing that. So, Jen, talk to me about the casting process and kind of where you found these actors because we thought, both Zach and I thought they were really well acted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best part of the movie, is their performances. I'm super proud of them, and they're all amazing actors that I hope will, and should have very long and successful careers, and also wonderful people. I have no so far in my career, I've had like no institutional contact. Like I've had no contact with any kind of institutional sort of entity, even to, even like a casting director, anything like that. So I don't my experience is very sort of personal. So the way that I found my cast, like I went to high school with two of them, both the two Jennies, uh, who play Sky and Cassie. I went to high school with them, and then the three guys. One of them I have worked with for a few years and was in a couple prior shorts. Matt Linton, who plays the brother.
Hmm.
So I've known him for a while and worked with him before. And then Manny and Taylor, who play Oliver and Blake, both of them actually found kind of through the USC ecosystem,
Mm.
just sort of around generally. Although with Taylor, I did watch the USC Drama School posts, each student posts sort of real a reading of an audition almost onto the website, and so I watched all 40 of those or whatever it was, and I
Hmm.
saw Taylor's, and I thought, I think there's something there. And then when I did a table read of the script, I invited him, and he just was perfect,
Hmm.
and the role was his. So yeah, it was very like, mm, people I knew, stuff like that.
Yeah. So.
That's really interesting because I went to also for a year. I went to SUNY Purchase Film Conservatory, and this is 19. It's just 2000, so very shooting on 16 millimeter and everything like that. So,
Awesome.
but it's interesting because we also Purchase is obviously it's in upstate New York, and
Hmm.
so it's not exactly accessible. So and it's also an extremely small the conservatory was 25 people. And same thing with the acting program was also attached to it. It was also really small. And I actually don't remember anyone using the actors. We all used kind of like friends and colleagues because the actors were too busy with their program because it was a very intense thing. But it's incredible to hear that they put up you had just basically their reels like so accessible. Like what was it like what is it like I have a former producer that I used to work with for my documentary films lives in LA, and I was there for a couple months promoting my last film, and it's always fascinating that just everyone works in the industry. Like I live in a military town where it's just like everybody works in the military. So it's like everybody's either Navy or something like that in Norfolk, Virginia. But it's just like in Hollywood, I feel like it's hard not to be kind of connected to some level and just find people that are. Is that how you were able to find people since I don't know if it was, you're going through SAG or anything like that, but like you were able to just kind of find people because like, yeah, like you said, like I went to high school with this guy, he was an actor and so on.
Yeah, I it's all only just been people that I have met through various means, but especially with this, it was really that. Uh and with those three in particular, just sort of like around orbiting around the USC network. But again, yeah, I have yet to really engage with the any sort of part of the machine of Hollywood, the infrastructure in almost any way. So my relationship to actors have just been people that I know, have met, have seen in things. The for one of the actors for the movie I'm editing now, I saw him in a play, and then I found him. I saw him in a play, forgot his name, looked it up on the website, found him on Instagram, DM'd
So
him,
easy now.
got his email, sent him the script, and then got a drink with him, and he said yes. So that's how it's been for me, and I think will definitely continue to be until there's some kind of until maybe someday there's some kind of like big machinery behind me where we can send the script out to a bunch of people.
Do you have to because all I hear is that it's impossible to film in LA. It's you just can't do it anymore. Getting the permits, getting to do thing. Like, was this, we bring up anytime we talk to a filmmaker, it's always Kevin Smith. I mean, like the guy that 37,000, $38,000 on his credit card kind of thing, and just filmed it in, again, the location, great part of an
Yeah,
indie
yeah.
cinema is just you got to you figure out the screenplay, you have access to this house, you have access to these people. There's a screening room in there's a projector I have, that type of thing, like there's all these parts, and then you write the script that way. That's like in my era of indie cinema, like especially the 90s, like that's what you did. Like and then you figured out, okay, how can I afford to get the film? And that was kind of it, and that was basically the only thing that you were kind of spending a budget on mostly. Have you experienced like, did you just like shoot at this house and it's not like, doesn't have to be permitted? I actually don't know the rules for narrative cinema. So
Yeah, so the stuff that I've done, uh, the Say Less was 100 grand, and the movie
yeah,
I did, I shot in the summer was a tenth of that. So uh, the the stuff I've done is so small that it's like I can shoot in LA. Like I can shoot in LA because it's so low impact that nobody bothers you.
yeah,
Slash I'm stealing things. Like I'm really doing it,
yeah,
totally. Like for this last movie, I just every exterior and stuff is completely stolen. Like we just like went to the beach and stole the beach and like got it carried around. We were shooting on a red Komodo, but to like steal stuff at the mall, we brought
iPhone.
my FX3, my Sony FX3, like
Mm.
much smaller. We brought
Yeah.
that to like steal at the mall and on the like stole on the Venice canals and stuff like that. So it's just totally like guerrilla in that sense. But yeah, certainly at the higher budget levels, like anything, even low, mid to
Mhm.
higher than that, there is that sense around town, absolutely, where everyone's like, nothing shoots here
yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
It's interesting because like I watch a lot of indie films, not only for this, but I have another podcast that like the more like Saban, like the studio distributors, like, or not, I guess they're not studio, the distributors like Saban, you're talking about probably like $1 million, $2 million, and they do not look as good as this. I just want to tell you, like like I was
Thank
actually
you.
really curious when I watched this, I was just like, wow, this is I'm actually surprised. We don't usually, it's just like, we can't, it's hard to get, a $5 million director on a smaller podcast, that type of thing. And so I was just like, oh wow, Dave got a and so like this shows really through. I mean, it's something that like kind of have been like arguing and kind of talking about, is that you can make like what indie cinema is considered now. Like it's just like, oh, Brad Pitt produced it and it's got a $12 million
I know
budget, and somehow that's independent
ridiculous.
cinema.
It's
And
trying.
this is what you're doing. Yeah,
It's ridiculous that
yeah,
that is the case. You're absolutely right. But thank you. The Yeah, you can absolutely do it. It all comes down to you just have to find a great cinematographer,
yeah,
and a great colorist, which I had.
yeah.
Um,
Color's
and
fantastic. Like
You
that
can
that is
absolutely do
actually
it.
one of the
Thank you.
biggest things that people mess up now because it's so easy to do yourself. And I say this as a filmmaker who messes it up and is a terrible colorist. Um, and so like that is actually one of the ways that you can very easily make it up. There you go, Dave, showing his
Yeah.
color wheel. It's blurred out, so I can't see what you're showing. But it's yeah, it's just like it's one of the best things. Also the sound, I mean, I just everything across it, it reads as like a high budget, as a whatever budget film. Like I just want to praise that, and anyone who's listening, definitely check it out because it's not an indie. It doesn't like feel like an indie film at all, including the actors and the writing and everything else. But yeah.
Thank you so much. And yeah, that was my hope. My hope was I'm going to make a 100 grand movie that looks like,
Mhm.
a couple $1 million movie or $5 million movie. That was the hope. And yeah, like I said, like it just totally comes down to getting a really talented cinematographer and colorist, like real pros who know what they're doing. And it is possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. You just have to reach out to, you're going to have a lot of swings that, but if you reach out to enough people, eventually I found, if the material is good, the material has to be good. If the material is good, somebody who loves what they do is going to take a pay cut to do it with you. If the
Mhm.
material's good,
Yeah,
which is what happened.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even big names will take a pay cut, if they love the story. And I actually tried to get a few of those, names on my production, but at the end of the day, it was taking too long, and I wanted to make my film, so I just pushed
Yeah.
ahead with the actors who I thought could do the job. So yeah, no actors access, no backstage for you. Just you find them, you know them, and that's how you get them cast in your films, right? Networking.
Yeah, I actually technically had to put in I believe in the say less credits, there is like a whatever actor to access or backstage logo or whatever that they require you to
Oh, really?
put in if you use
Hmm.
their, yeah, if you
I didn't
even,
know I had to do that. Yeah.
if you even
I'm not done with
put
mine.
up, if you even put it up. So I put it up, but I didn't use anybody who came in,
Oh, okay. Hmm.
like I put it up and I just, there was no one I was feeling. So even if you don't, as soon as you put it up according to the thing that you sign when you do it, you have to
Mm.
put their logo in the credits. But yes, I did not, yeah, I did not use any of those people. It was all people that I were in my network essentially.
Right, but there were some SAG after people in your network, right? Because you had the SAG logo
Hmm.
at the end. Were that the
Yeah. So
adults or the older folks?
it was the majority. So there were only two. There were either two people or so it's seven people total appear in the film, and there were two or three who were non-SAG. But even if you have non-SAG actors, if you have SAG actors, the whole production is SAG. So it was SAG ultra low budget, which is yeah, ultra low budget, which is anything under between 300 grand and 20 grand is ultra low budget. And so that's what it was. And yeah, so it was a SAG production.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was looking at doing that for my production, but unfortunately, I had too many actors, and it just wasn't going to be financially viable for me.
It
Like I
gets
think I had,
it gets expensive.
it does. Yeah, I had over 20 actors, 20 named
Yeah.
actors in my film. So to have even one SAG to make it a SAG production would have been devastating to my budget. I couldn't afford to make the film, so I went non-union completely for mine. And it's not as bad as I thought it would be because you're getting a lot of still great actors. It's just
Yeah.
sometimes they're SAG actors who choose not to be SAG, or sometimes they're SAG eligible or SAG adjacent that you can still use without needing to be a SAG production. So it all worked out in the end, and but maybe my next production I'll be SAG. I'm guessing this $10,000 one or the one you just did, is it also SAG?
It is. It's micro budget.
Micro
It's
budget.
because that's the very last category is anything under 20 grand.
Yeah, there you go. So then you get a lot more flexibility in terms of, essentially the
That's right.
actors are willing to work for whatever you're willing to pay them at that point. I think.
Yes, that is essentially what the micro budget agreement says is, the budget is under this. We're acknowledging that, you know, we will we will work for, what you can give us, which is presumably below the like ultra low budget minimum, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about was intimacy. So there's quite a few moments in this film where people are, touching each other and smooching. And I was looking at the credits specifically for this. I didn't see an intimacy coordinator. So was it everybody was cool with what they were asked to do, I'm assuming? Or I guess you don't need one unless it's a simulated sex scene, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's nothing that like comes close to that. But yeah, of course, that was a conversation that I had with my actors far before we were shooting, and yeah, everybody was completely, um, you know, totally comfortable with it, and the cast grew very very close, and so yeah, it wasn't. Everybody was totally on board with the smooching that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I dealt with that a little bit on my production where, again, like it's in the script, right? But you still have to make sure people are like aware of it and they're okay with it. And even on the day, just being like, hey, we're going to do a scene where you kiss each other. Is
Hmm.
everybody okay with it? You good with it? You good with it? And as long as everybody's like, they're all adults, right? And
Yeah,
so again, I didn't have anything nearly as, provocative as even you had in your film. And I still wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable. And there was one person who wasn't comfortable. So we had to do some creative camera maneuvers and editing, and it wasn't a big deal, but it's like, okay. I mean, you got to ultimately appeal towards your actors, right? And what they're comfortable with, because they're the ones, performing for you. Um, any
yep.
sort of challenges or things that kind of came up, and how long was the shooting schedule? What'd you shoot with, and were there any sort of unexpected challenges? I know you had a dog on set, so those, that's always a concern, but at least the dog seemed pretty well trained from what I could tell.
Yeah, yeah. Dog was great. It's a dog. So there are always things that it's not going to do exactly what you want it to do.
No.
Right. So, of course, that's a challenge. You have the most well trained dog in the world. It's a challenge. It's a
Sure.
dog. It's an animal. At the end of the day, it's an animal. And the animal's going to get tired. The animal's going to get hot, whatever. And,
Right.
and you're going to have to, take a break, do other stuff, whatever. Um, but yeah, it was 16 days total. That's with 1 day of pickups.
Okay.
Um, and we shot with the Venice 2, the Sony Venice 2. And a challenge was, look, it was 16, or I guess 15 night shoots,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
which is
Not
not
fun.
something that I recommend. Any indie filmmakers, if any filmmakers out there are listening, I don't recommend it. I would consider rewriting uh, to avoid, or scheduling in such a way that you're only shooting a couple hours of night stuff each time, because we
Yeah.
did 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. because we
Oof.
didn't have the budget. We didn't have the budget to black out. We couldn't fake the night. So if it was going to be a
Right.
night, it was going to be real.
Yep.
And so it was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that really takes its toll eventually. Thankfully, I had a wonderful cast and crew, especially my actors who were, I mean, my crew, of course, as well, but to a little bit of my actors, they would be sleeping on a couch to getting a couple hours of rest when I didn't need them for a while, and then
Mm-hmm.
popping up to be on camera in 30 minutes. And they were just great, and amazing, and they like offered to do that. Obviously I made sure that they were okay with that, but they fondly have, in reminiscing about it, said it was like summer camp, that it was a lot of fun, that vibe of all being up late together. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, they got really really close. And I had, them all tell me after, or most of them explicitly were like, that was some of the most fun I've had. It was, great experience, all that stuff. So I was blessed to be dealing with that situation of shooting from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. with actors that were extremely understanding. And if I didn't have that, it would have been, a nightmare. It would have been a whole different situation.
Yeah, 100%. I did my film, and a lot of it takes place technically at night. But black garbage bags were our friend, and
Hmm.
so we were able to get away with shooting pretty much during the day for most of the shots, even though it was at night because we just blacked out the windows. Not always an option, like in your case, but when it is,
When it
that's how
is,
we got
do it.
around it. Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
kid on set for most of the time, so we were even more restricted in terms of when we could shoot. You can go a
Yes.
little late with kids, but you can't do all-nighters with kids. That's what I learned.
No.
Yeah, so we had to be very sort of, specific, but it worked out in the end. You just draw the blinds, garbage bags behind the blinds. Nobody can even tell. And, again, it takes place at night, but we did have a few night shoots, couple 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.s and stuff like that. Nobody liked that. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially since we were switching from days to nights over the course of the production, so you had to
Yeah.
space that out. So for you though, it sounds like like you said, you did everything from 7 a.m. to or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So no switching was needed. Were they 5 day weeks or 6 day weeks?
So it was the way it was 6 days on, 1 day off, 4 days on.
Oh,
And then there was about a 2 week break,
mm,
or maybe 10 days, and then the rest. So then, it was, I think it was 4 days on. It was then 4 days on, 1 day off, and then one more day. I think it's been a while. But it was definitely something like that. That break was actually because we were supposed to finish it in that first block, but we didn't.
mm.
Didn't finish the movie in that block. So had to schedule more days and figure all that out. Yeah, all the like classic first feature indie filmmaking pitfalls, uh, I ran into pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, we scheduled for 18 shooting days and 1 day for pickups. We did 5 day weeks, and we didn't have any sort of long breaks between there because we just planned out our weekends, and so it worked out. But yeah, I can see how anything can happen, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but overall, besides that, a pretty smooth production.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely very tough. I was doing a lot. I had a lot of different responsibilities.
Of course.
Um, certainly not just directing while on set. So it was difficult. It was difficult. Uh,
Hmm.
but but yeah, we got it done. We got it done.
That's great. That's great. Now let's talk a little bit about the kind of post production, because this is where I found you, and your post on Reddit was talking about really your festival run. I think you said you submitted to 37 festivals and you only got into like one, or 38, and you were rejected from 37. So what was the festival you got into? And having had that experience, would you go through the festival run again, or would you just go straight to distribution after finishing the film and eschew the festival run, considering how it went?
Yeah. So the festival that I got into was Cinequest, and it actually won the audience award at
Hey.
Cinequest, which was nice. But yes, many rejections, 37. And yeah, to your question, it's hard to say, right? Because if I knew that, if I knew I wasn't going to get into any of them, like I wouldn't have applied. But uh, I was a little surprised I wasn't surprised I didn't get into Sundance or South by, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
some of the smaller ones, I was surprised by, I would say. I mean, 37 is a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
It's expensive.
It's a lot. It's very expensive. Um, and so, yeah, I'm a little bit, not to necessarily draw the ire of the festival community, but I'm a little bit uh,
Disheartened?
disappointed and disheartened in the state of the festivals. And I'll when I say that, what I mean is the big, you know, the big, let's say 15 festivals, like the
Hmm.
15 biggest festivals in the world,
Yeah.
Sure.
where they seem to have become just a studio system. They have, the movies that are starring, like their cast is four A-list
Yeah.
actors, movie stars,
Yeah.
starring in them. It's like a $40 million
Yeah.
budget, and the movie is coming out in theaters across the world like 2 months later.
Hmm.
And it's what do we? It's supposed to be an independent film festival,
Yeah.
uh, and just because Warner Brothers isn't directly attached doesn't make it independent.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and like, don't get out on a technicality. Nobody's fooled.
Yeah.
uh, and so, and these big festivals can be very, very political in terms of it just sort of being a who and who you're connected to type thing. And I promise I do not say that as a jaded, oh, they didn't let me in at all.
Hmm.
I didn't expect, I never expected the movie. It was a Hail Mary. I never expected this movie to get into Sundance or South by or Con or any of those. I took the shot, but I didn't expect it to get in.
Right.
But I know that from the kind of political aspect of it, I have heard from every angle, from the filmmaker side of things, the producer side of things, people who have worked there or do work there side of things, high up producers who like get movies in side of things. I've heard from every single angle um, about how much of a political thing it is in terms of just who you're represented by, all that kind of stuff, which I don't think at this point, I don't think is a, I think a lot of people, like most people, know that about the like biggest five festivals, stuff like that.
Sure.
So I'm a little bit disheartened currently about that. I mean, I think let's do independent. Like, Robert. I don't think Robert Redford would be super stoked with how things are decided. Like with some of the ways some of the decisions that Sundance makes these days, and there should be more truly independent, much lower budget movies that show there, because there are really good ones that are good enough to show
Hmm.
and that aren't there because there's no star in them, which
Right.
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, soapbox, but
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. It's a racket, 100%. What I know from my own experiences dealing with it is that the the show programmers are not only taking from whoever submits to their festival, but they're actively petitioning filmmakers to come to their festival and
oh
trying to
yeah,
get those big names and those big titles at their fest in order to get attention for it. With my film,
oh yeah,
I have no names in my film. There are people I hope become names by the time it comes out, but I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not going to plan on that. And so I know by default I won't get into any of the major festivals with my film. And plus my film is very, it's like niche. It's got a certain audience, and I don't think most traditional festivals would appeal to, and that's fine. I'm not, going to necessarily hold my breath. But, you know, was this festival run, had you done festival runs with your other short films? And did you have any better success with those, or is this the first festival run you did?
I did a couple. So with two or three shorts, I did the festival thing, and especially with my first sort of good short. I I did the thing where I submitted to a ton of festivals,
Yeah.
and and that's when I first sort of started to learn about how the festival thing worked. And
Yeah.
it won like either won or was selected for uh, a bunch of different festivals, like 15 or 18 or something.
Right.
Most of them, a lot of them like comedy awards or whatever, because it was a comedy. And of course, nothing happened. And you sort of don't know that when you don't necessarily know that when you're really just starting out. You're like, oh yeah, of course, I like put these laurels on this poster, but nobody's breaking my door down to have me direct things. Like, really, all that happened was I spent a bunch of submission fees. And I think you come to learn there are uh, the festivals that can move the needle for you. That number is a tiny, tiny fraction of the festivals that exist. Um, some of them are actually almost just like in bad faith money grabs. Like some of them are actual just businesses that just take your submission fee.
You're just paying for
And
a laurel.
exactly, you're paying for a laurel, like a PDF laurel that you can
Hmm.
drag onto your poster.
That's right.
And it's weird. I was never really told that. I feel like so many filmmakers learn that the hard way. It's kind of weird. You would almost think everyone would know that. Like, oh yeah, there are. Anyway, so yes, that's a long way of saying yes. I did that with a couple short films. It's like okay, and so at least by the time I did Say Less, I knew enough to submit it to those like 37 film festivals and not 100,
Mhm. Yeah.
each getting smaller as we go
Yeah.
down, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I did the Overfest with one of my shorts, and it got into like about a dozen laurels, kind of like you, and but yeah, at the end of the day, Spielberg's not knocking on my door. I don't have A24 begging for me to shoot, one of their films. And, ultimately they're for you, they're for your credibility and your resume, right? So again, now that we've talked at length about, how festivals are kind of a racket, what are you going to do with this new one?
Um, what am I going to do with this new one? That's a good question. Um, Funnily enough, I think I'm going to try it specifically with South by Southwest. And
Hmm?
That's like a targeted thing. I think it could fit there. I think, uh, yeah. And I'm going to try that. And if that doesn't work out, if they don't accept it, then honestly, right now, I couldn't tell you what I'm going to do with it. Obviously, like the I mean, worst case scenario in air quotes. I think my distributor that I worked with for Say Less um, would probably take this one as well, because I think they've so far really enjoyed our working together. And but something like that, or maybe who knows, maybe a YouTube thing. I don't know. The industry is in such a crazy place right now. So really, all I know is I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it with South by Southwest, and I can't tell you what I'm going to do from there if it doesn't. If it obviously, which high chance it doesn't get in. Just 'cause it's a tiny bullseye to hit, but it's a very weird sort of more art housey movie, because that's kind of what I felt I could do for such a low budget.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in the same boat you are. I spent a lot of money on my first feature. I can't do that again. So if I do make something myself in the future, it's going to be basically me and the camera and the actors and maybe a sound person, and that's about it. And stealing shots, because I
yeah,
did that on my feature as well. And some people are like, "Hey, we're not out here. We're not permitted to be out here on this road. Like, let's just get the shot really quick. Get to the middle of the night. I just need the shot, and then we can go back." Anyways,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, worst case scenario when you're with just a few people, realistically, worst case scenario is a cop comes by and tells you, "Hey guys, knock it off," and you say, "Yep." no problem. And that's it, you know? It's when you have a huge crew that it's
Yeah.
a problem because then it's more serious and everybody has to go. Everyone, that costs a lot of money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, 100%. And if a cop does come by, I'll just pull the old, hey, this is a student film. I'm just going for
Exactly.
my getting my
Yep.
student film.
On the student film, they go, "Oh man, that's cool," and he's like, "Yeah," and they're like, "All right, guys, well, knock it off." But
I didn't know.
yeah, exactly.
A little harder for me to get away with that, but
I
anyways,
still got it. You still got it.
indeed. Awesome, great. Zach, was there anything you thought about the story that you wanted to ask?
I
Uh,
actually, the one thing about with the release is that something I've wanted, because documentary world is a completely different animal than narrative when it comes to what happens afterwards with the release. There's just nowhere to put a documentary
Totally.
film these days, which is something I found out with my last film, where it was executive produced by Martin Sheen. Rosario Dawson did the voiceover. Like, we had other
Awesome.
producers attached to it. Nowhere. We put it on YouTube. And because it literally, we had financiers that ended up being like, okay, we'll just give you money to basically take the loss, kind of thing, and just get it out there before the election. But I'm a huge, of course, I'm not in my room with all my DVDs and everything, but like, I'm a huge like physical media person. Like, is that a conversation that you have like with your distributor about like there being even, because like one thing that I hate about the new kind of world of independent film distribution is that it used to be the best way you could support a person was buy their DVD. And then I had the
Totally.
DVD and it was fantastic. And there was sometimes extras and there was, kind of things. Is that something that, you think about doing? Like doing, DVD commentary or what, like kind of all those extras that like, that's like something I loved about as a kid in high school, that I could, because when it was first coming out, like DVDs and and everything, where you could have the different audio tracks and kind of the extras and have like something in hand that wasn't like just now it's just on, you own it on Vudu or you own it on Amazon, and if either of those companies ever decide to change
Right.
the agreement or whatever, it's gone.
Yeah, which is horrible.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, yeah, five companies own everything. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, the DVD thing was totally just there's going to be a DVD release in like a month, something like that, 1 to 2 months. So obviously, that's not expecting that to sell a bunch of copies, but anybody who wants one will be able to get one. That will, of course, include me. That'll include the cast's families. They'll
Yeah.
want copies. My family will want copies, stuff like that. So, um, the my distributor is that was always in the deal, which was very nice of them.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, in terms of physical media, that's what's going to happen there. Yeah.
You definitely should do a commentary if you can. You should. I always just recommend it. Yeah, I have a stack of my films, or you can't see them behind there, but yeah, I love having the physical media because it's like I can send a link to somebody, and it's like, yeah. The problem is we send to people now, and they don't have DVD players, which is sad. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
true.
that's awesome to hear. Make sure you send us the link when it's available, where we can pick it up.
Oh,
Because
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I definitely
Yeah, I
in the
love.
think
show
it'll
I
notes.
always
be
want to have a physical copy of something. Are you doing like, I also just
definitely.
as a person who runs a nonprofit, I highly recommend having like on your site or whatever, having a place that people can do sign DVDs or sign something like that and
Mm.
sell them for like a little bit more. Like,
That is a good idea.
you get, even if you get 10 of those people doing it, then that's, a direct sale as opposed to giving Amazon 40% or whatever they take, through the distribution there. But anyway, that's
Totally. It's a good idea, honestly. And yeah, even more than that, it would be nice to know if anybody ordered that. I'd be like, wow, my God,
yeah. Yeah.
that's so nice of you. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my first short film actually, I made a DVD and a commentary track for it.
Mhm.
So definitely do the commentary track thing if you haven't already done so, or we're thinking about that. In fact, Vimeo actually has a built-in commentary track system, so you can choose the audio.
Cool.
Did you know that? Because your video
Yeah.
is on Vimeo. Yeah, you can put your, at least the one I saw this short film that had a commentary track
Yeah.
built into it. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. I wish YouTube would do something like that. We need to bring back the commentary track.
What I actually, this is funny. So my co-host on my other podcasts, like every white guy in the middle age, he has multiple podcasts. Um, he wrote a book on Josie and the Pussycats, which if you haven't seen that film, Michael, you got to see it. Fantastic
I
film about the
haven't.
music industry. But you have? Yeah. Yeah.
I have not.
Oh, you have not? You definitely got to see it. It's very good. But he
Okay.
literally wrote the oral history of the book on it, or whatever. But he's also since it didn't get a good release, he also separately did a audio podcast that's just available. He did a commentary track with the director and himself, who's like now an expert on the film, as just a free release podcast track that people can listen to, kind of like, I don't know if you know MST3K, like riff tracks. People like listen to commentaries. It's just, that's also an alternative thing. I'm obsessed with commentary tracks. So anyway, I'll get off of it.
That's very cool. I'm honestly, it's something I'm not even very aware of. Obviously, I know what a commentary
Yeah,
track
yeah.
is, but um I never really watched them, listened to them. You know,
Mhm.
I watched DVDs, but I didn't do
Yeah.
the commentary track. I think it was a little bit. I think it was definitely less popular when by the time I was watching stuff that might have one, it was definitely less
I
popular.
mean, you grew up in the age where you could listen to directors on podcasts and things like that.
Yeah,
Like Tarantino didn't have a podcast when I was growing up that you could
Does
listen to
he?
him talk about, rant about.
right.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, yeah, he does. And It was the only way you could hear anyone talk about, a Spielberg film or whatever you think. Spielberg wasn't doing like 2 hour long interviews that were available. You can turn on
Right.
you can turn on a commentary track and hear him talk about, oh yeah, we did a crane, we did whatever, talk about the technicals. And like I learned so much about filmmaking through like, oh, just the talking about the technicals that they would be, and you're like, oh, that was an 18-hour day that day or whatever, and just interesting things that you can, now it's like free and it's available, it's everywhere. But yeah, so
Yeah, honestly, commentary tracks were my film school growing up. I would buy DVDs specifically for the extras, and if there was a commentary track, I definitely add that to my catalog because I just wanted to hear from the director and the actors and get all that background insight in terms of how the film was made, right? Or the BTS footage, right? Those BTS productions were very important. Did you have any BTS on yours? Anybody doing BTS, or was it you
We
just
have
never
some
landed on for it?
photos. We've got some photos, but I just it was another thing for me to worry about, and it was just past my capacity. Like
Yeah.
I had a photographer come by a couple different days, and we got some decent photos from there. But again, like I was already wearing so many hats, I was like, I just can't. I
yeah, no.
can't. It is one thing that I cannot handle is trying to make BTS happen,
Yeah.
which realistically is silly and sort of an in air quotes mistake, because if I were a savvier marketer and social media person and all this stuff, the whole BTS would have been on TikTok as we were making it. I would have like had a dedicated person doing social media, like TikToks every day, all night, that people could then watch of like day 3 of shooting, and it's all that stuff. Like if I were savvier, I would have done all of that stuff, but I'm just not. You only have so many brain cycles, you only have so much RAM,
Yeah.
and I just choose to dedicate it to try and make it as good as I can, and I just couldn't spend it on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, on every production I've been on, it's always been something where it's like, okay, I'm gonna set up a 360 cam in the corner there, and I'll record, myself doing something, and then the day it's like, nope, there's no white space. I mean, you know how it is when you're directing, you gotta
Yeah,
be
you're like,
100%
all right,
zeroed in on your job.
yeah, exactly.
There's too many things going on, too many people waiting on you, for you to make a decision. There is zero downtime,
And
during a shoot.
yeah, and those things are distracting. I have found that there are not that many there are not that many directors who have a large social media following who have made um, like a full feature.
Hmm.
So the number of directors with a lot of followers is
Hmm.
this, and then the ones that the amount that have a lot of followers and have made a at least one full feature is maybe 0.5% of that. And that's because, and I say that not as a criticism, I say as an example, as something to point to and say, posting on social media all the time takes your attention. It takes your time and your attention and that's, this making a movie is deep work that takes a lot of time and all of your attention. And if you're
Hmm.
spending it, you know, if you're spending it elsewhere on making a new post, a new like well edited, snappy post every day, you're just not gonna it's gonna be that much harder to do something that's already takes a very long time
Yeah.
to finish. This like one piece takes multiple years to finish.
Yeah.
It takes long enough without that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I hired somebody to shoot on-set photos and shoot some video and put together something. And so I just didn't want to think about that. So, thankfully I had a little bit extra budget, for that type of thing, just because I knew it was something I would need down the road at minimum for like the poster. I needed
Yeah.
professional level photographs for the poster. So yeah, awesome. Well, hey, we're at the end of our show. Please tell everyone where they can go download and find and buy your film.
Yeah. Well, it's called Say Less, and it is on Amazon. If you want to watch it, please watch it on Amazon, because that way you can then give it, 5 stars and a review.
Hmm.
Please do, if you enjoy the film. I can't tell you how much it helps. It's unfortunately right now that's kind of the whole ball game. Is uh, getting the difference between a film with 10 5-star reviews and 100 5-star reviews is like, it's just a whole other thing. It's a whole other
Hmm.
category. So yeah, check it out there. And if you want to, I guess, if you want to connect with me, feel free to reach out. I'll definitely answer. It's Michael underscore Kellman on Instagram. Whoever, Michael underscore Kellman, if you hear this, I'm coming for you. I want that username. The one underscore, I want that. Um,
What about Michael Kellman,
so,
no underscore?
well, I can't even touch that guy. Whoever that is, that's like way out of reach.
There are two. Mine is ZD Roberts. There are two other Zach Robertses that are photographers. One is also a documentary filmmaker that also looks, and both of them look somewhat like me. So yeah, yeah, I know the
Yeah,
feeling. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was establishing
Um,
the social media presence for Around the Lens, I was able to get pretty much anything I wanted because nobody had it at the time except for Twitter. Somebody had a Twitter account with the handle Around the Lens, but I reached out to them and said, "Hey, can I have your account or can I buy your account from you?" And it took a couple of years, but eventually the guy just gave me his account because he wasn't doing anything with it. So,
he caved
it could
like a
happen.
coward.
Was that?
Like a coward. He caved like a coward.
No, no, he
No,
was
you
being
got to
very, very
keep it.
generous, very
No,
nice.
keep it forever and be mean about it.
No.
Um, no, I'm kidding. And and also the film is of course on Letterboxd, so you can check it out there, all that stuff.
Can you buy on Letterbox? Is that how, or is it just you just
I
rate on
think
Letterbox?
there is the like how to watch thing, and I think you can
Okay.
click in from there. But it's Amazon. It's also on. If you don't have an Amazon account, you can rent it on Apple TV. But the reason I try to direct people to Amazon is because also Google Play. But the reason I try to direct people on Amazon rather than Apple is because Apple stopped. A couple of years ago they stopped doing like ratings, which
Hmm.
is tough for
Interesting.
you want the good ratings, so that's why Amazon is kind of better.
Okay. Well, me and Zach are definitely going to go give it a rating.
Thank you
It's
guys, and
also
thank you
it's
so much
also
for having me.
it's also cheaper on Amazon right now, just if anyone's listening. So then
Is
on
it really?
Voodoo, it's has $1 off sale. It's it on Voodoo it's 10.99, and on Amazon it is
Well, it's 10 to
8.99. It's
it's
8.99 according to what I'm saying. So, so.
it's to rent. It's $5 though, right?
It's
$4.99.
$4 actually, 3.99 right now. It has a
Great.
$1 off sale.
Act
So,
now
yeah.
while supplies last,
Even
guys.
better.
I don't know if that's an Amazon thing or if they change rates or whatever.
They just do stuff.
Yeah.
They just do stuff. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know about
Walk,
it.
don't run, don't walk to your
Yes.
nearest Amazon
To your laptop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or phone.
Well,
location.
thank you guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, thank you, Michael. It's been great to have you on. Let us know when the next film comes out because we'd love to have you on to talk
I
about
will,
and promote
absolutely.
that. And thank you again, Zach, as well, my co-host, for being here as always. Michael, it's been a pleasure talking to you all about this film, and I love talking shop. So good luck on your next one, and the one after that, and the one after that, in infinite until you stop making films, which will be, I imagine, when you die, because I don't plan to ever stop. All right. Well, thank you again, Michael, for being on the program. For Zach and Michael, I'm Dave Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, Roundtable Discussions, and we're out of here. Bye, everybody.